Hey guys, back again. Okay, so what we're talking about today is something that I think a few people have asked me about, is how we cope with people in our lives that are moaners and complainers. And such an interesting thing to think about and talk about, because sometimes the people that are closest to us are the people that tend to perhaps do the complaining and the moaning, or the judging, or the criticizing, or the condemning. And if they're people that you love and you're close to, then obviously, if it was a friend, you could perhaps just walk away or say you don't really want to spend that much time. But if it's someone who you love and you care about, a parent or a sibling, or even a really old friend that you've had since day dot, and somehow they've got into a bit of a cycle of complaining a lot. And this is something I've thought long and hard about over many years. And so it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's like, there's nothing wrong with complaining. I don't want to demonize complaining. Everyone complains. I complain. I complain the weather's crap, or kids are driving me mad. When I was younger, obviously they're all grown up and left home, so it's not the same. But when they were little, it's like, you'd get together with your friends and you'd maybe, my husband's driving me mad. He's always making noises in the shed, whatever it is. We all complain. There's nothing wrong with it. I think there is a very big difference between someone who has an odd complaint and moans about things, as someone who really sits in a place of victim, and blames everybody for the things that happen to them. Or for me, it's like everyone's kind of struggling with something. Okay, so yes, I know me and my friends will get together, we'll have a bit of a complain, and then that'll be it. And in a way, complaining helps you process maybe the frustration. I mean, I don't think I'd be here if I hadn't had my support network around me, or I could go and go, oh my gosh, and it kind of got me through the day. But as I talked about it, it got processed and left me, and I didn't keep harping on about it the next time and the next time and the next time. And I think it's very different to listening like a friend or someone you care about complain, but it's when it's done systematically all the time. Every time you meet them, they're saying the same thing and the same complaints and the same blaming of everybody. And it's all everybody else's fault. And when you've been with someone who it just drains you and depletes you. And for me, I've got issues with anger. So I get quite, I want to stab someone in the eye with a pencil, because it's kind of drives you insane. And some people want to stab themselves in the eye with a pencil, because it can be very draining. And it's almost like before you even go in the room, or before you even meet them, you have to prep yourself for the onslaught of pointing fingers and blaming and criticizing and two-facing, being two-faced about everything and everybody. And so it's all context. It's all in the context. And I know some days I might be okay with that more than other days. It depends where I'm at. And I realize a lot of the time I feel like, I think there's this fear that somehow somebody else is complaining. Now, don't get me wrong, people reveal themselves to you. If they are constantly complaining and slating people behind their back, that tells you a lot about that person. It tells you that, if they're doing it for this one, then they're probably doing it for you. I mean, that's the harsh realities. If they have a judgment about everyone and criticize everybody, then they're probably criticizing you. Now, if it's a friend, sometimes we have a choice about that, or we could confront them. But I realize a lot of the problem is about fear. So if you've got someone in your world like that you find draining, that you find frustrating, that you don't actually enjoy their company, that everything is, blaming everybody, everything's victim, everything's judgy and critical, what do you do with that? And so it's about as I always say, coming back to you, right? Because what's happening within you? Why are you kind of enabling that person just to continue? And this is where I think you can take back the power, because in a way, the people that come to you and say, oh my God, this person's driving me mad, all they do is complain. Well, maybe you can do something. There is something you can do. The fact that you're enabling it by listening to it, by putting up with it, by actually getting on board with it, and sometimes saying nothing doesn't work. Sometimes you just go, oh, just let them. That's draining. And so what can you do? First of all, you can come back to you and sit in your own space and go, what's happening with me? Apart from feeling drained and maybe a bit overwhelmed by their crap. And I often talk about people, it's like people want to vomit. And those kind of people want to vomit, and they'll come round, vomit all over the place, and then leave it over you or in your house or in your home. And so people are going to spew their negativity, and then you wear it, and then you feel a bit crap. And so for me, it's about helping people on the other end of that is to step back. First of all, step back. Let them vomit on the floor in front of you. Let all the complaints just land there. It doesn't have to say anything or mean anything about you. To learn to differentiate is key. So differentiate, stand back, look at it. And then figure out what's happening inside of you. What stops you from saying something? What stops you from confronting people? What stops you from going, oh my goodness, I'm really kind of pulling up a mirror in front of them going, oh my gosh, is this what you got? You're going to sit and complain the whole time. You do this over and over and over again. And if they're complaining about the same thing, then, if you're a friend, then maybe you need to speak into that person's life. Maybe you need to step up and say, you know what? Oh my goodness, it's like being with you is like, having the lifeblood drained out of me. Now, I'm not saying you would say that, but that's how you feel. So to say something, and the reason you don't is probably because you're in fear. You're in fear of maybe upsetting them. You're in fear of maybe having a confrontation, an uncomfortable situation, that would make you feel uncomfortable, and you don't want to feel uncomfortable. You're worried that they would react badly. And so a lot of it is fear because of how they might respond. And in a way, you see, you're being more loyal to them than you are to yourself. Because if you're sitting there feeling one thing but saying another, then you're being as two-faced as they might be. Because you're like, in your head, you're like, oh my God, this person's driving me insane. I hate spending time with this person. I really don't like their company. I wish they'd just not bother me. I wish they'd shut up. So you're saying one thing, but feeling another, like a lot of anger and frustration, but you're going, and you're listening. And even if you say nothing, you're kind of part of it. You're part of the story. And so for me, it's about checking with yourself. Are you with people that complain a lot because you're afraid? You're afraid to feel uncomfortable, afraid to confront them, afraid to say what you really think and what you really mean, because maybe if you do that, they'll withdraw, they'll abandon, or they'll leave you and you'll feel abandoned. And so you're terrified of feeling abandoned. So you put up with people and their bad behaviors and their negativity and their blame game, continually blaming everybody else, and you put up with it and put up with it and you put up with it until there comes a point where you just can't put up with it anymore, and you just can't handle it anymore. And if you have to listen to it one more time, you're just going to explode. And you're afraid of doing that because you don't want to hurt people, and that's not who you want to be. I mean, I had to learn how to do this because I've got issues with anger. So I know that if I let it build up, I'd just be like, bleh, and then I would do what I didn't want to do, which was really hurt them, instead of actually confronting them. And I think good friends will confront you. I think good people who really care about you will actually step up and go, hey, come on, what's going on here? If you're continually pointing fingers, then you're not taking responsibility, are you? And that's a victim stance. I mean, people that complain a lot and moan, I'm not talking about the people that just have the odd moan and the odd complain and then it's over and you move on. I'm talking about who continually complain and moan and criticize and judge and blame everybody around them. They're the ones that drain us and are tiring and exhausting, and we don't actually enjoy being with people like that, because unless unless really you're a little very similar. I mean, you wouldn't be here listening to this if you were. You just, and people bond over complaining. Look at England. You know, we talk to strangers. Oh, what a lovely day. Oh, what a crap day. Like about the weather. I mean, complaining is a bonder. It's not all bad. I don't want you to think, you know, it's all bad. It's not. It's not. People complain all the time. There's nothing wrong with it. We don't want to be demonizing it. But we do want to be aware of maybe if we're spending time with people who play a big part in our lives, maybe they're partners. And for me, I was a bit allergic to negativity. So even very negative people who always look on the dark side of life, always pessimistic, always like, well, what if? That can be draining too. And so, but I think if you really care about someone and they will listen. And if they don't, then maybe they don't care about you as much as you thought they did. Maybe they just want to be right. And I think people who always want to be right, can never be wrong, can never be challenged, won't take responsibility. They're hard people to be around. And it's hard to be in a relationship with someone like that. And the nice thing about being a therapist is people come in and actually they're asking for someone to challenge them. I mean, a big part of my job is to challenge people's beliefs, how what they're doing is working for them. So I help people become more empowered. I think complainers and moaners are people that won't own their stuff. And so they're pointing the finger out of the world and blaming others for something that's happening to them. So they're very vulnerable people. And maybe that's another reason why we don't want to confront them, because a lot of those people are very, I'd say, sensitive or wounded, and we know that on some level. And so we don't want to hurt them. We don't want to, make their pain any greater. And so we feel like by confronting them, we're going to hurt them. But actually, I don't think that's true. I actually think by not confronting them and helping them feel more empowered, then we're not really supporting them as a real friend or even colleague or sibling or even parent or aunt or uncle. And we pay a heavy price for having relationship with people like that. How many people have I worked with that, would pussyfoot around, would walk on eggshells, would cater to whoever was around them. And then something happened. They maybe got to the point where they just couldn't do it anymore and they were just over catering to that person, and they spoke up and that person just walked away. And it's very upsetting and devastating sometimes. But you know what? The only reason you were in relationship with that person is because you put up with it and you enabled it and you sat and listened and you supported them in it. And really, were you really supporting them, or you just putting up with them? And as soon as you did speak up and have a voice and say no, or confronted them, or engaged with them in a deeper way, they walked away. Didn't think twice, they just walked away. And that's the fear for a lot of people, especially if we've been abandoned early on or we were neglected. Now, a lot of us were, because excuse me, that's what parents did. You do what I want you to do, and if you don't, I'll reject and avoid and abandon you. And so a lot of us are very afraid that people are going to walk away. But sometimes the courage comes from actually stepping up, saying what you really think, and really, if they really care about you, they're not going to walk away. But it's the delivery, because the trouble is, and this is the trouble, if you let it build up, and all of a sudden you're like, that's it, I'm over this, I don't want to, and you shout and yell and scream and maybe call the names, or because you've held on to it and it's built up, and then you explode, then that will destroy the relationship, yes, but also you'll feel terrible, because the one thing you were trying not to do was just that. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So how do we cope with complaining people? Well, first of all, we recognize what's happening inside of us and why we don't confront and why we don't challenge and why we keep putting up and enabling their complaining. And what's happened, I mean, that's take back the power, really, because are we than just doing what they're doing. We're just doing it in a different way. And so it's good to confront ourselves. What's happening within me? What stops me? You know, like, what is the price I'm paying for just, you know, and learning to say what you really mean and mean what you say. Like, you know, and I know for me, it's taken me a long time to actually say, you know what, this is really challenging for me to sit and listen to you complain continually about the same thing. And I have done that. I've said, in a way, that is a form of insanity. You keep saying the same thing, you keep doing the same thing, kind of expecting a different result, and all you get is the same thing. So I'm wondering what's happening for you. I mean, as a therapist, I've learned ways to confront people, and I don't have many people in my life that I feel like I don't enjoy being with. I suppose I've cultivated friendships and relationships where I can speak authentically and honestly, and I can do it in such a way that, you know, isn't like a sledgehammer. It's more like a kid glove. And I think I've learned ways to actually say the difficult things in a kind, loving way, because that's who I want to be, and that's what I've learned to do. So it's okay. I've worked it out, but I know a lot of other people haven't, and they get very annoyed and frustrated with the people around them sometimes, and they don't really know what to do with it. And so they might just not respond, they might not get back to them, they might try and, you know, pull away, and then the other person perhaps notices that and kind of leans in. And so, I mean, it's complex, and nothing's ever the same. It's all, every individual has a different experience. But I just wanted to talk about that, because I've noticed a few people actually expressing. And for me, I suppose I'm so invested in my own growth and happy to challenge myself and come to me and sit with my uncomfortability. And I've found a way through it, and it's worked. You know, people appreciate it. You know, if you say it with kindness and with love, then often they'll listen. Whereas if you say it with a sledgehammer, they'll often get defensive, shut down, and withdraw, and hurt. And we end up hurting the people we really care about, because we're frustrated because we don't know how to manage it. So basically, I think let's keep it clear. Let's make it less complicated than it is by saying sometimes it's just more about us, about our own fears, about the what ifs, about the fear of being abandoned or being left, or them walking away and having no relationship. But I reckon if you say it in such a way that's kind and genuine and authentic, I'm really struggling with you because, you know, you constantly complain but don't seem to, and I can see that this is a big deal for you. So coming to peace with your own emotions is key, and I think helps you communicate better. And so it's all about the relationship with you, and that's basically a lot of what I'm teaching is. It's about you, and that's what other people and the people in your world that trigger you or cause you suffering or annoy you the crap out of you, that's what they're teaching you, to actually learn to listen to your own heart. And so we want to lean into that, not lean out of it. We want to lean in and go, well, what is this person teaching me? Well, maybe they're teaching you that you sit a lot in fear, and fear's running the show. I don't know about you, but I don't think we feel free when we're living in fear. We don't feel free to make the right choices for ourselves. We tend to live our life on other people's terms, and we feel powerless. And so often complainers will attract other complainers, but maybe you've repressed your complaining, and maybe you're judging others for complaining. So it's all about you. So to look in the mirror and see what's happening within you. Anyway, just wanted to talk about that today. If you found it interesting, then please like, subscribe, or whatever you do at the end of these videos. And make a comment. Maybe there's someone maybe you felt challenged by what I've said to you today. Maybe I've confronted you. But anyway, I wish you well. Take care. Bye for now.